Good evening. This is Rudy Giuliani, and this is America's Mayor Live from Palm Beach. It got dark out already. We were considering tonight going outside again because we're beginning to get some light out there. And as soon as we do, we'll be going outside, and you can see the beautiful palm trees and over the trees and through the woods. Mar-a-Lago. 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 Okay. Protests. I am very upset about these protests because I never remember protests on a major scale done by primarily Americans for a terrorist group that wants to kill Americans. There's something indicating a serious sickness within our society that needs to be dealt with. I do think the election of Donald J. Trump has given us a way to deal with it. And I think he's doing a great job of acting the part of a surgeon cutting out the cancer. I hope the local governments are following suit. The judge in New York is an extreme disappointment in not allowing the immediate expulsion of Mahmoud Khalil, who led demonstration after demonstration. And don't you really? I mean, there's a lot more, but isn't it enough that he's not an American citizen? He has no right to be here. It's a complete privilege to be here, and that's it. And he's leading demonstrations for an enemy of the United States on the terrorist list of the United States, who brutally wiped out 1,200 of our innocent allies, and who allies with a country that wants to destroy us, that he's giving aid and comfort to them, that he's helping them, that he's burning down buildings. I mean, what's wrong with this judge? I know his mom. I mean, Judge, what's wrong with you? The standard for a preliminary injunction or temporary restraining order is likelihood of success on the merits. Now, how is he going to have success? You, like me, went to law school, and you know that we have three branches of government, and that immigration largely is given to the executive branch of the government. And to the extent that it's shared with the legislative, not with the judges. The president would have to do something to the point of being unconstitutional for you to interfere. And tell me exactly how it's unconstitutional for throwing out a non-citizen who only has a very limited set of rights anyway, for using really violence to support an enemy of civilization. How about just the fact that he interfered with hundreds, if not thousands, of legitimate kids going to school? You see, he doesn't. I don't get this. This Khalil guy has no right to be here. It's a privilege. We don't have to let him in. And when he does something that's that our president and our Secretary of State and our intelligence officials can justify on a rational basis can present a danger to our national security, they should be allowed to, it's their discretion. They should be allowed to, unless the judge is playing president. And this just also happens to be one of the reasons why the president was elected. It's certainly expressing the will of the people. No one but someone who has leanings toward extreme Islam or Marxism would have any reason to want him here. And the man who's making the decisions is theoretically an observant Jew. Well, it's not going to, I mean, it's just one case, and it's not going to stop us, and we're eventually going to throw this guy out, and he's thrown a lot of them out. And now he's focused on 60 colleges, some of the best known in America, who have carried on a campaign of anti-Semitism. And this is the first serious campaign I can think of in the history of this country against anti-Semitism. led by a Republican president. So I don't know. Everybody gets to make their own choice, but it seems rather strange that anybody who cared about the future existence of the state of Israel would be even closely associated, would be at all even vaguely associated with the Democrat Party. It's become now either a party of anti-Israel advocates or those too afraid to speak up for Israel or vote in Israel's favor. Just like they can't vote to protect women against men invading their sports, even their sports that involve a tremendous amount of physical contact and possible violence. As a number of the lawyers made plain, this is not about Mahmoud Khalil's free speech right or all the other people. It's about his depriving people of the right to go to school. His depriving people of the right to their property by burning it. His right to, as they did at Cornell University last night, that they interrupted and stopped a discussion between a representative Israel and a representative Palestine. A former prime minister of the Palestinian Authority, Salam Fayyad, and former Israeli foreign minister, Zibzi Livni, were going to have a debate or discussion at Cornell. This is what our universities exist for. The violence and the demonstrating was so great that they couldn't. That's not free speech. That's depriving people of free speech. I mean, after all this time, we're finally in the process of throwing out or arresting the two people or two of the three people that invaded the Quantico Marine Base under Obama, who couldn't be labeled as Islamic extremists, even though they were yelling, Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar. I don't know what you got to do for Obama to be an Israeli, a Muslim extremist. Anyone think that Obama might have been prejudiced? That those constant references to a racism like Biden were projection? The damage that this guy Biden did to our country is incalculable. We now have 53.5 million, or 15.8% of the population that's foreign born, which wouldn't be bad if they were foreign born and trying to assimilate. But a lot of these people, a very large percentage of that new 53.5 million, wants us to change. They'd prefer to live under Sharia law, for example. They even attempt in some of their communities to do that. And they celebrate when we get killed. And it was a much smaller number of them here then. Way back when we were starting as a country in 1890, we had 14.8%. So this is the largest number in over 100 years. You bring in foreigners in those numbers without any vetting, unlike what we did in the past, to show that they have an affinity for Western values and our civilization. And you're going to destroy, and you are destroying what we're all about. You're going to destroy the American nation. The number of illegals is listed as from the Center for Immigration Studies at 5.4 million. That complete horseshit. That would be a large number anyway. It's at least 3 times that. I'm going to ask Ted to do a search for tomorrow. I want you to find me one thing the left wing is telling the truth about. It'd be a lot easier. We have a very short show.
You really set me up to fail with that one. They sometimes announce the date before they speak, and like that.
Oh, the day? Like this is
They often get that right. But even that,
Like
right?
this-
Even that, we got to check to make sure.
This is Wednesday. You know, only 46% of Americans now say that their sympathies lie more with Israel than the Palestinians, and 33% sympathize more with the Palestinians. Now, why any American would sympathize with a group of people that's trained at 2 years old to kill you is sick and indicates the presence of a media and an educational system that is there to brainwash you to take positions that are against your life and safety and the life and safety of your children. This would be like saying that 36% of the American people sympathized with Russia at the height of the Cold War, Germany at the height of the Second World War. However, I don't ever want you to think this is all the American people. We are split. And are we split with two reasonable positions, or are we split between the sensible, loyal, common sense Americans and the people who have, and let's say the vast majority of them have very weak minds and have been brainwashed? Well, here's the difference in the poll. Among Republicans, 75% support Israel and 10% support Palestine. Among Democrats, 59% support Palestine and 21% support Israel. Now, please explain to me, if you're a supporter of Israel, why you're a Democrat. If the Democratic Party prevails, Israel is going to be gone as the homeland of the Jewish people. Let me read it to you again. This is a Gallup poll, which is generally a left-wing leaning poll. Nobody played with this poll. This is not an election. 59% of Democrats are in favor of Palestine. Palestine is in favor of eliminating the state of Israel. You've got to be a mental midget not to know that. 21% of Democrats are in favor of Israel. Now we go to the other party, the Republican Party. 75% are in favor of Israel and 10% are in favor of Palestine. I don't know who they are, probably rhinos. We'd be more than willing to kick them out. I'd kick them out because you shouldn't be in favor of a group of people that wants to kill you. Like it isn't good for my kid if you are. But really, it isn't Israel. These numbers would reflect themselves also if we said Western civilization. I don't know if they'd be terribly far off if we said Christianity. These numbers indicate the significant, unbelievable amount of infiltration done by Marxists in our country, both in our educational institution and in our pathetic news system, news networks. Those numbers came from Melanie Phillips, who is the author of a book called The Builder's Stone: How Jews and Christians Built the West and Why Only They Can Save It Now, which is another reason why I keep reminding you of the slaughter going on in Syria under our nose of Christians by the new terrorist regime that replaced the old terrorist regime. So before we think that was a great thing that we did, maybe we got to do something there and straighten it out. We do have troops there, and we are talking about taking them out. And I'm afraid if we take them out, there's not going to be a Christian left in Syria. And they don't just kill them. They do to them what Hamas did to the Jewish people in Israel. Somebody that I respect very much, but I haven't seen the quote, so I'm not going to use it yet until I see it, said that maybe we shouldn't go all the way in stopping Iran from becoming a nuclear power, because Iran has never actually killed anybody in the United States. Well, first of all, I don't know that that's the standard for how or why we would use military action. I mean, the Nazis never killed anybody. They tried, but they never killed anybody in the United States. And neither did Italy or Germany. Neither Italy or Japan went to war against them. If the Russians did killings in the United States, it was sort of the back and forth of killings among intelligence agents. I don't remember them just willy-nilly killing civilians in the United States during the war. Yeah, the Chinese probably do kill people in the United States, but that's because we've allowed them to take advantage of us because we're suckers. We just let the Nixon, Kissinger internal, probably in good faith brainwashing of China's motives take over, and didn't have the mental strength or acuity to think our way through it. But China hasn't done much killing of Americans in America. They kill some of their own people here in America. Because they consider second, third generation Chinese they can turn. Well, right now, if you want to inform yourself on the full depravity of the reign of terror, which should be a priority to overthrow, and this idea of negotiating with them is just wasting time. Even if you negotiate with them, they're going to lie to you again. There's a trial going on in New York of two people paid by the Iranian government to kill an Iranian woman who is a resistance writer, thinker, poet of some influence. So they're very afraid of what she's saying. Extremely afraid of, I should say, rather than very afraid. They're extremely afraid of what she's saying, and they hired for not even when I mentioned this money to some of the guys here, they said for only that amount of money. This is the kind of money that these creeps $500,000 to kill her. They were going to kill her right in Flatbush. So the genius who said they don't come here and kill people. But, I get a little offended by that because they came here to kill my friend Ali Reza, who we have on the show consistently in Arizona. People were arrested, prosecuted. Now, they never came here to kill me, but they did try to kill me in France, and they tried to kill me in Albania. Maybe they never tried to kill him. I don't know. But I think he's on their list. But maybe he doesn't take it seriously. I don't understand why anybody who has a good head on their shoulders doesn't realize the danger of the danger of the reign of terror. This is the woman. This is the woman who was their target. Her name is Masa Alenajad. And the main witness was going to be, that's her right there. The main witness, and she's a writer, and she wrote about the obvious, which is the deplorable conditions, the complete degradation of human rights, particularly rights for women in Iran, which we have tolerated over and over again now for 4 decades. We've allowed them to take American hostages. We've allowed them to kill Americans. We've allowed them to kill Americans willy-nilly in Iraq. We did seek some justice for that in killing Soleimani, but he's just one person. We've allowed them to threaten us, to push us around, to bully us. They are doing everything they can to strengthen our mortal enemies like China that want to take over the leadership of the world. And they express nothing but hatred for us. And even attempts at goodwill, they make clear that we're suckers. When Biden released $6 billion to them, which I can't imagine how you would do that. They didn't say thank you. They held a demonstration in which they said death to Israel and death to America. And then he just kept releasing more money. And when Trump has now written a letter to them giving them one last chance to negotiate, they basically told him to go to hell. Ayatollah's not going to negotiate with us. I don't know what it's going to take for us just to say to Bibi, let's just make sure they don't have nuclear weapons, huh? Because if we negotiate with them, we're not going to be sure. If we bomb all their sites and go beyond that out of an excess of caution and bomb the living daylights out of them, so they're not going to have the will to do it, and that there might be very well a resistance movement like the National Council for the Resistance to the Iranian dictatorship, or the MEK, that they may be able to take over. And to the extent that the rumors are correct, the people in the State Department are negotiating with the former Shah. I mean, if I just tell you that the CIA and the FBI are negotiating with the former Shah, you know it's not in the best interest of the United States, right? Well, you tell me when the State Department and the CIA did anything in the best interest of the United States. It's disastrous. You're not going to replace a religious theocratic dictatorship with a secular dictatorship. The Shah's father, although he would have been better for us than the Ayatollah, was a complete, thoroughgoing, murdering dictator and a massive crook. Massive. And his people around him and his family stole billions from the people of Iran. Were they better than a crazy, absolutely out of his mind dictator who was a religious nut? Yeah. But is that what we should be spending our time on? Putting another dictator in place who will do anything he has to do in order to acquire great wealth and power? And then when things get tough, Shah, Daddy Shah, proved to be a coward. Even his own people were very disappointed that he ran off. Twice. Everybody says the kid is weaker than the father. But you know, it's really possible that we can make the same. If we overthrow the Ayatollah and replace it with an independent government that gets elected, it'll be the first time the State Department led us to a good foreign policy decision in a very, very long time. So I would recommend to the new administration, whatever the State Department recommends, do the opposite, the way Ronald Reagan did. That was one of his New York Times, State Department. Just do the opposite. So this murder case is going to play itself out in New York. They offered the Iranians offered $500,000 for the assassination. Luckily, there was an undercover that got involved. They were caught. The two people are on trial, and gosh, we'll get some ideas of what goes on inside Iran that the Biden administration, because they were so friendly with Iran, really, really kept. Those are some of the guns that were introduced into evidence that they had. Very friendly. They had these in the United States, and let me see if I have I have a picture here of the main guy. Now he's a witness now, but he was going to be part of the murder. He's like a really fine-looking guy, right? It would make you feel he was following you home at night. He'd make you feel really comfortable. Huh? This is a representative of the Islamic Republic of Iran. People I have great affection for because they wanted to kill me twice. They got caught outside of not outside of Albania, right over the border in Albania. And then a few months later, they got caught outside the borders of France in Belgium. So we have any? Do we have any a video of his meeting with the head of NATO today?
We do.
Because I thought it was a very, very good free-flowing press conference, which he's having more of. And somehow, if he sits down for those press conferences, do you find that the press is a little more under control?
I do.
Or have they changed their attitude toward him?
I think they.
Which is it? I'd like to see him do one standing up press conference to see if it returns.
Right. I think that, but you're right. It's a good question. Is it a change in tone?
With a friend of mine who was Prime Minister of the Netherlands. I got to know him very well. We had a great relationship always. Mark Rutte. Now he's Secretary General of NATO and doing a fantastic job. Everybody, every report I've gotten is what a great job he did, and I'm not at all surprised when I hear it. We had to support him, and we supported him as soon as I heard the name. But he was a fantastic prime minister, and he's doing a fantastic job. An even tougher job. Which is tougher, being the prime minister of Netherlands or?
This job is quite tough.
So come back to you, okay?
Mm.
This is just a replay of it. This is a replay of it.
Rutte. Now he's Secretary General of NATO and doing a fantastic job. Everybody, every report I've gotten is what a great job he did, and I'm not at all surprised when I hear it. We had to support him, and we supported him as soon as I heard the name. But he was a fantastic prime minister, and he's doing a fantastic job. An even tougher job. Which is tougher, being the prime minister of Netherlands or?
This job is quite tough.
Hello.
Well, that's why the first NATO meeting is going to be in Netherlands in late June.
Yeah.
Want to go?
We're live on the road.
I attended a NATO meeting in Reykjavik.
Right.
No, in Latvia. So I've sort of made this point before, but it's worth making it again. I just want to make sure I get it right. And and it comes from Glenn Harlan Reynolds. And he made this point some time ago, and I was very impressed with it. He repeated it today in a column. And that is that the key to really reducing government, particularly the federal government, which should be a limited government, only exercising the powers given to it by the Constitution, not expanding those powers. And of course, that's been completely lost. We've become a Goliath of functions that nobody even knows we perform, and functions that we're supposed to perform, many that we don't, and fraud and corruption. And the more of that that we have, as he points out in the column, the more corruption we have, the more needless functions you have, or repetitive functions you have, the more annoying, not absolutely necessary regulations you have. Not only does it impose enormous burdens on your productivity, it creates unbelievable, absolutely compelling reasons for corruption. And our government is, as I said earlier about Elon's quest for fraud, waste, and abuse, it's all fraud. Oh, I mean, if it's just a waste and abuse, it wouldn't be much. I mean, most of the really gigantic money, I mean, it's the danger of all the money we give without any accounting attached to it. Do you know the money we've given to Ukraine? Biden has turned down any kind of process for monitoring it. I mean, you can't see through that. I mean, this is a country in which he sold his soul for millions. This is a country he knows is corrupt, and he sends them money, and there's no strictures put on it, no follow-up put on it. That's not helping the people of Ukraine. He has no idea how much of it helped the people of Ukraine and how much helped the oligarchs that the Democrat Party has been throwing money around with for 15 years, the biggest contributors. Biggest single nation that contributed to the crooked Clinton Foundation is Ukraine. And take a look at its wealth compared to 100 more countries that could much more easily have contributed that amount. It means that the country is, you know how America used to be dedicated to free speech before Biden came along? Ukraine is dedicated to corruption. The government is, not the people. And if you can't separate yourself from that, and I will tell you, you go to Ukraine, you talk to them about corruption, and they will tell you, yeah, our politicians are responsible for it, but so are yours because they benefit from it. And I'm going to tell you, the disproportionate number of them are Democrats. I am not going to exclude the fact that there are some Republicans that also benefit, but they would be a small number, minority. And they don't have the big contacts like they do in some of these states like New York where there's systemic corruption. A lot of the Republicans sell themselves for the crumbs on the table. So Harlan Reynolds says, you want to cut the government. He says to the Department of Government Efficiency, you cut the functions. And he's using as an example the Argentinian president, Javier Milei, who has done that. And as Reynolds makes clear, the parasites are very unhappy. There used to be an expression that was used in my father's day, if not my early days, and that is, and this would apply, let's say, to Schumer, who's never had a job other than government, although he's worth millions. He's never done anything but suck on the government tit. And now we find out they don't really work very much, huh? Not all of them. I mean, I had a U.S. attorney's office that worked as hard or harder than a law firm. But we're talking about a general problem, not a universal problem, but general enough so that it is one of the main reasons, along with the unaccountable social spending that we do. We don't do our social spending. We don't do our social spending directed to help poor people as it's intended. We do our social spending directed to help, as we now find out, so-called charitable institutions through which they suck out enormous amounts of money. Typically setting up their family members or political donors as people getting very, very large salaries, having the ability to do subcontracting, having an ability to give out contracts without any form of bidding. I mean, the minute you see contract without bidding in a Democrat government, you got a 4 out of 5 chance that they could end up prosecuted by a reasonably aggressive, good, honest United States attorney who prosecutes based on crime, not political affiliation. I don't know how many are left. Hopefully, shortly, there will be a lot. And I think that's the wisdom that Harlan, and I think that's the wisdom of today's Miranda Devine column and the other Miranda Devine columns, that the unbelievable warfare against Doge. It's as if Doge is the Nazi Party or the Communist Party or the Islamic terrorists. Or this is a function that Americans used to, on a bipartisan basis, agree on. And then, of course, the press would make fun of it because it did become a cliche. I'm going to eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse. And then the other side would say, everybody says that. So this has been going on for, I think it was going on when I ran for office. I never used the expression, not because I didn't do it. I actually did eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse. I got rid of 9,000 workers in the New York City hospital system. And then they used to follow me all around the country trying to protest against me. And since I was going to run in Republican primaries, all they were doing was getting me votes. And when they stopped protesting me, I was trying to encourage them because they kind of forgot about it after a while. And I was running for president in 2007, 2008. I was trying to kind of gin them up again. Come on, come and protest, damn it. I wanted them to come and tell people in responsible parts of America where you have common sense, which excludes New York, that I cut the size of the government. I created a surplus. I don't think I was ever particularly popular in New York for doing that. I was popular in the suburbs. People in New York wouldn't have minded if I taxed them more. New York City, different than New York State. People in New York are brainwashed. You can't possibly have elected Democrats almost exclusively for 175 years, with the exception of a handful of Republicans, if you're not brainwashed. And I always make this point to you because I want to show you how bad the brainwashing is. They did not vote for Abraham Lincoln. People in New York who like to make you think they're so smart didn't vote for Abraham Lincoln. I don't know what it is. They're nice people. They can be enormously productive people. They've created maybe the greatest city in the world. But they also can be the dumbest assholes that ever existed. Look at the people they select. De Blasio, a guy who, first of all, a guy he doesn't make sense when he talks. He should have been thrown out the day that he announced for mayor, or the first debate. The first debate for mayor find out the year that he first ran. It's a long time ago, like 2012 or something, or 2013. 2013, it's odd years, I think, was the first year that he ran. Take a look. So they had a first debate. He had two main opponents. One was a female who was the head of the city council and favored by Bloomberg. At that point, Bloomberg, I think, had switched to Democrat. And the other was an African American who had been head of the Board of Education. So the first one to speak was it was like that 2-minute introduction that you get. The first one to speak was Quinn. She was the woman, and she said that if she got elected mayor, she would make history because she would be the first woman mayor, the first lesbian mayor, and the first lesbian mayor who had a child. And the place went wild. Like, these were qualifications for being mayor. I got nothing against. I signed the first bill to protect gays and lesbians. I had nothing against being gay, but I never thought it was like a qualification for public office. I've never seen anything that suggests that my heterosexuality made me a better mayor than if I wasn't a heterosexual or if I were a woman. I never said to anybody, vote for me because I'm a heterosexual male. And if I did, I would have imagined that people wouldn't vote for me because they would think I had nothing else to qualify myself. But this group of Democrats, I think, don't know where it was, when the big Democratic district went crazy, nutty. Then the second guy got up, who was a friend of mine, Billy Thompson. Billy was the head of the Board of Education for a lot of the times that I was mayor. And although he was a Democrat, and nowadays Billy would probably be a conservative, but he was a very good guy. He was an honest guy, and my chief of staff had a very close friendship with him. But Billy gets up, and this made no sense at all. But he had to make history too. He said, I'm going to make history because I'll be the second African-American mayor of the city. Now, I don't know how you make history being the second African mayor of the city, or how that qualifies you to be mayor. In fact, if you consider the fact that the first African-American mayor of the city was the worst mayor in the history of the city until de Blasio came along, I didn't think it was a smart thing for Billy to say. Even blacks will tell you that David Dinkins screwed it up for black candidates because everybody thinks about him as, oh my God, we'll have a pogrom. People will come out trying to kill Jews. We'll have a riot in Washington Heights. We'll have 10.5% unemployment. We'll have half the city on welfare. And we'll have 2,000. In a long history of New York, there's only one mayor who's ever had 2,000 murders 3 times, and that was David Dinkins. So now he's going to be the second to set history. There are a lot of good reasons for Billy to be mayor. He'd have been a lot better than David Dinkins. But they get into this identity. Identity creates what? Not qualifications. Identity creates the basis on which you get elected? But de Blasio beat them all. First of all, de Blasio is about 9'2". I mean, he's gigantic. He never stops. He stood up, towered over all of them, and said, I can do better than all that. First of all, look at my son. Stand up, whatever his son's name was. Poor kid stands up. He's got a big afro. See, that's my son. So now we know he has a black son. He's white. He's got a black son. This is why he should be mayor. Well, it gets better. He said, and I'm married to a woman. Stand up, stand up, stand up. I'm married to a woman who was a lesbian before she married me, and she changed. I heard that, and I said, oh, my God, my city's gone. And he got elected. He got elected because he's got a kid with an afro and a wife who's a lesbian who he changed. Now she's no longer his wife when he left office. 2013. She left office. She left office in a major cloud of about $800 million that goes unaccounted for in the big campaign she was going to have. I've forgotten to do what to help children. No children got helped under de Blasio. You couldn't go near Gracie Mansion because if you did, you'd fail a marijuana drug test. The smoke was coming out of every effing window. And he took a city that was handed to him by Bloomberg that was the safest and best city in America, and he turned it into a hellhole. Like every Democrat does in every large, old Democratic city in America. It's universal. And it's your fault, like in Chicago, because you vote for him. 60 years of Democrat mayors in Chicago, every weekend is a killing field. It's a question of how many people get killed, not will people get killed. And never a question of how many are black. It's always 7 or 8 out of 10. Inflation. Up until 2 days ago, the Democrat attack was unbelievable. I think the thing you played with all the Yahoos on, all the reporters saying the same thing. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing how they use the same words. Like quid pro quo, when they had that whistleblower. There must have been 100 left-wing reporters that said quid pro quo. Now, I guarantee you, 99 out of the 100 don't even know what it means. Latin, probably don't even know it's Latin. But they just said it. Say it. Democrat National Committee says you have to say that Trump had a quid pro quo. They probably thought it was some kind of sexually transmitted disease. Trump has a quid pro quo. Or when Papadopoulos, today they arrested George Papadopoulos. I have no idea who George Papadopoulos is, and half of them couldn't pronounce his name. Today they arrested George Papadopoulos, and this will be a major breakthrough, major breakthrough, major breakthrough, major breakthrough, major breakthrough, all over the place. Major breakthrough, major breakthrough, major breakthrough. Of course, all of it's horseshit, completely. Now, they thought they had him. He promised to bring down prices. He's only been in office a month. The effects of what Biden did have got to take 4, 5, 6 months to work themselves out. We didn't see any impact from Reagan until the end of the year. And I can tell you, as mayor, you didn't see any impact from me until the next year. On economics, on crime, right away. But on economics, no. Look, on the border, you got it right away. You can take complete control of that. The month of February was the lowest month for illegals coming over the border. How long, Ted? How many years was it? Usually they say, this was the lowest in 10 years or 8 years. Or
That was the all-time.
I don't think you read. Yeah, it's the all-time
record.
Yeah, I mean, the first year he sets the record with the least amount of immigration. He just got started. He just got started, and these judges think they're going to stop him. I mean, he's going to outlast them all. First of all, most of them are wrong. If a few of them are right, okay, we'll find another way to do it. Most of them are wrong. He's going to get immigration straightened out because it's completely in his hands. Economy, look, the economy, this is a private economy. It's not completely in the president's hands, but nobody knows how to stimulate it better than he did. But he didn't do it the first time around until about 8 months into office. Well, I don't know. God is really good to him, though. So just as they're putting out ads and everything else, inflation is up, inflation is up, inflation is up. Inflation went down 2 days ago for the month. And the prices on the one they're looking at, the one they look at the most all the time, which is gasoline, down since Biden's been out of office by about 20%. And looks like the general inflationary index is down about 12% already. Now, is it going to stay that way? No. There'll be some ups, there'll be some downs. But ultimately, as these things are going to affect, they're all going to help us. It's also going to be extraordinarily positive when you figure out that not every one of these tariffs are going to go into effect. Every time he talks about a tariff, the market panics. And if he talks about a tariff on Mexico, everybody that has investments that are sensitive to Mexico sells. Well, everybody who did that 3 or 4 weeks lost a lot of money because none of the tariffs with Mexico went in. Instead, they made a deal, he did, with Scheinbaum. And on Sunday, Scheinbaum had a great celebration of the great relationship between the United States and Mexico because she did everything that he was trying to get her to do. She put 10,000 troops on the border. She's allowing remain in Mexico. And that record, we keep that record. We don't need the tariffs. The tariffs, yeah, we need probably some financial adjustments, but we don't need major punitive tariffs. The tariffs with Mexico and Canada are going to be of two types. One is to get their attention, so they stop allowing fentanyl to come in and kill us, and they stop allowing criminals to come over the border who kill, rape, maim, and spy on us. That's more important than economics. The second is to make sure that we're not put in an unfair position. What the heck is wrong with a reciprocal tariff? If I'm manufacturing cell phones and I'm selling them overseas in Ireland, since St. Patrick's Day is coming up, and the Irish put a 30% tariff on my cell phone, but they sell cell phones here, and I don't put a tariff on it, I'm stupid. All I want to do is get rid of the jobs of my poor citizens, right? And if they'd like to go without tariffs, great. We'll both go without tariffs. That's not free trade. I don't know who gets to define free trade. That would be like saying a baseball or football game is free. And I score a touchdown, and I get 6 points. And then I have an extra point, now I have 7. Now the opposition scores a touchdown, and they're given an immediate 21 points. They're given an immediate 21 points. And somehow I'm behind 21-7, and we both did the same thing. That's called inequity, unfairness, right? Different rules for different people. That's what he's talking about. So what's going to happen is most of these tariffs that the market is doing what it normally does, is discount in advance for what they believe is going to happen. It's the same thing as last time. It's not going to happen. And then a lot of very smart people can make a fortune who are buying up these stocks. So the advice that I gave everyone is don't react to any of these tariffs until they actually happen. You'll have plenty of time to help yourself by then. Plenty of time. So, Ted?
Wow.
What do you think? What do you think of this? There's a young woman who has not gotten that much attention. I'd love to see if we can get her on the show, and I'm going to give you the task of finding her. Her name is, and this may be a pseudonym,
Sure.
Chloe Cole.
Okay.
Now, Chloe did a transition from, I get so confused when these trans things happen. If it's girl to boy.
Yeah, that was my next question, to be honest, Mayor.
What?
That was my next question.
Yeah, well, I'm going to try to figure it out here.
We got to make sure.
I don't want to get if I get the pronouns
Oh, that
wrong,
mean you'll get the
if I get the pronouns wrong, I
get
think
the surname wrong. Or
I
the
think you're taken off the air and you're whipped.
X might, yeah, we might get the X.
Oh my God, I got to get this right. This is
Just go with Zim. Z.
well,
Z Zim.
I realized my mistake when I was 16 years old. I tried to change genders before I was even a teenager. So I think she was well, I'm not sure what she was, but here are the statistics. A huge number of U.S. hospitals still do sex change medically and surgically. She lists the number in her research as 54, according to the medical nonprofit Do No Harm. And since between 2019 and 2023, there were 14,000 sex change treatments and 5,700 surgeries. Penises cut off, vaginas inverted, and breasts removed. And the point that she's making is that nobody is telling us how many are in the situation that she's in, which is they now realize it was a mistake. Even for the ones that didn't have the surgery, it could be permanent. The medicine could have done such an effect on you that you never can. For example, she says she had well, I guess she was a girl who became a boy who wants to go back to being a girl. So she had a mastectomy as a teenager. So she says she'll never be able to breastfeed her children, and she may never be able to have children. She doesn't know. And what she's saying is, I went into a deep depression over this. Luckily, she came out of it, and she's trying to warn other kids. You may want to change, but wait until,
right.
In some European countries, which usually are more, I hate to use the word retrogressive than we are, they've actually more quickly figured out that this is a terrible scam.
Right.
They've banned it. In England, you can't have a sex change until you're 19.
Right.
Even if the parents say yes.
That's right. And Mayor, you talk about this over and over again. This is part of the larger modern Democratic Party's shift to the Marxist left, where they want to take control away from the parents and give it all to the state. The idea is to eliminate the family unit, right? And to hand over full
100%.
control to the state. And there's, how much more state control can you have than when you take over someone's children? Correct. And you have these children questioning their sex and their gender as toddlers, as it's absolute absurdity. And the way that the legacy media has gone along with this just absurd movement, which is relatively new, right? This wasn't something we talked about even 15 years ago.
Maybe even
maybe even 4. I mean, I feel like when I was in college, I feel like that was a lot. I feel like an old man, right? When you think of the issues and the things we were talking about. And I thought that was crazy at the time.
And I have to amend that a little. Way back in 2010, I told you this story about Mayor O'Rourke, Governor O'Rourke in North Carolina was running for re-election. And the issue of bathrooms came up.
That's right.
Should you force someone who believes their gender, the person is male sex, but they believe their gender is female? Should you stop them from going in the ladies' room? And I said to the governor, who was a close friend of mine then, I said, oh, that should be an easy one in North Carolina. Now, I'm talking about 10, 12 years ago. Right. It's a Republican state. This is before North Carolina switched. He had been elected pretty handily, and at the time, he had a 60% approval rating, like he was going to win. The question was just by how much. He lost on that issue in North Carolina. They said he was prejudiced and narrow-minded and like a Nazi or something. Right. And it just shook the hell out of me. I said, what has happened to us? I mean, I can't imagine an answer other than if you have the if you have the physical attributes of a man, you go to the men's room. If you have the physical attributes of a woman, you go to the ladies' room. And I don't know, maybe we should make up another room if you don't have either.
Right. Well, it's just another example,
But I
man.
sure as heck don't want some guy, and knowing the deep level of perversion in our society, I don't want a bunch of perverted guys pretending to be women ending up in ladies' rooms and raping. We have enough rape as it is. You know, rape was the biggest increased crime in New York in the last 2 years. It isn't as if we just have a rape here and a rape there. And of course, our entire society isn't perverted. But it's also not just a small, tiny, little, it's a lot more than we think.
That's right.
Having prosecuted it, I can tell you that.
Well, that's right, Mayor. And if you
You've
look
got
at
more perverted people running around than you think.
That's right. And if you look at maybe the greatest era, the greatest time period in the history of New York City, you could argue that time period was the 1990s. I mean, we hear from people all the time. I hear from people all the time, including from Upper East Side liberals, clear liberals in the Upper East Side, right? They'll come up and they'll say they miss Giuliani's New York. And that's how they'll word it, right? You know, people will talk about how they were in New York at the time, and they talk about it as Giuliani's New York, right? When people say they lived in New York, it's often they give that caveat because, you know, those that were there under
I used
Dinkins.
to like living in Giuliani's New York.
You liked it?
I like living in Bloomberg's New York. I didn't like living.
Okay, so Bloomberg,
didn't like
okay, he
living
gets
in
the he
Blasio.
benefits from coming right after you.
Since de Blasio, Adams, who I have to tell you, as you know, I think is better than all the other choices. Adams has never had honestly, he hasn't ever had the willingness to take on the Democrat crooked machine in order to fix it. We will take a short break and we'll be back.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month,
Wow.
including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax,
Wow.
channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly,
Wow.
where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code Rudy. Act fast. These deals are selling out.
U.S. Army Major Scott Smiley paid a high price serving our nation. Scott was leading his platoon in Iraq when a blast sent shrapnel through his eyes, leaving him blind and temporarily paralyzed. Scott would become the first blind active duty military officer before medically retiring years later. Thanks to friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation gave Scott and his family a mortgage-free, specially adapted smart home. Show your support for America's heroes now. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep green, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because we like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's Coffee.
This is Rudy Giuliani back with you. Speaking about the brainwashing and the deterioration of Americans, I have a personal acquaintance who is a brainwashed communist. And you know her well. Randy Weingarten, the head of the Teachers Union. Randy, before she was the head of the Communist National Teachers Union, was the head of the equally communist New York City Teachers Union. And I had the great privilege of negotiating with her for 6 years. And figured out in my own stupid little mind that the teachers union doesn't have a damn thing to do with children, helping children. In fact, children are an obstacle. Nor do they really care very much about good teachers. It's a job protection society for their members, so it's a job protection society for them. Meaning they try to get them into being bureaucrats as quickly as possible so they don't leave as teachers because the conditions for teachers are so terrible. The schools are out of control. The schools are dangerous. All of the left-wing elements that surround the schools, before I came in, wouldn't allow you to have a policeman in the school. They wouldn't even allow you to keep guns out of the school. I mean, they're all against guns, except, you don't want to harm a school kid and take his gun away. Now, I changed all of that, which made her, and we fought every day about everything. Now, well, one conversation was particularly enlightening, one negotiation, because we hadn't given them a raise in 2 or 3 years, and I thought that was unfair. We should give them a raise. But I had changed the whole way in which to give raises in the city. I had tried to put it as much as I could, given the restraints of civil service, on a merit. So with the police, I was able to figure out through the ComStat system who the most productive police were. You could see their assignments. You could see where they were located. You could see what happened to crime as a result of their presence there. Some of them had no impact. They were just average cops. Some crime was going up. They were either lousy cops or corrupt. And some had a remarkable ability to bring crime down. Well, of course, you wanted to pay more to the ones who had a remarkable ability to bring crime down. And not just arrested a lot of people, because an arrest is a failure. The crime has already taken place. The body is already dead. The woman already has been raped. The kid has already been beaten up. Of course, you want to arrest them to stop them from doing it again. But the real objective of law enforcement is to prevent crime, to bring it down. And you want to really reward the cops who know how to do that and who start to think creatively about how to do that. And our ComStat system allowed us to do that. So I went to Randy after we had done this in many places. Bernie Kerik, as I pointed out to you last night, brought down violence in the worst prison jail in America by 90% using that system. I said, Randy, this would be great for the schools. We'd be able to have some objective basis on which to figure out who's the best teacher, who's a good teacher, who's an average teacher, who's not so good that can have training, and who should we kick out? Because it can't be that the education profession is the only one that doesn't have a lot of losers in it and a lot of great ones. My profession, lawyers, boy, we got a lot of losers and we got a lot of great ones. In baseball, the losers don't get to play because they have batting averages. She said, I would never go along with that. It's my job to protect every teacher. I said, I know it is because I got about 300 of them sitting in the rubber room who have abused children, including sexually abused them. And you fight me every inch of the way. And I got to pay them for 4 or 5 years until I can get rid of them. And not to mention the fact that even though they're not in the classroom, they're probably abusing children in their neighborhoods. And she said, well, we're suing you because you've interfered with their rights. You know how I interfered with their rights? It was easier for me to prosecute them. I'd take them and bring them over to the local prosecutor and say, prosecute them. They'd put them in jail. I still couldn't get them rid of the teachers. I'd have to send them money in Sing Sing. In other words, the teacher was convicted of sexually abusing an 8-year-old girl. He wasn't removed as a teacher yet because the judges who do this, you have to have a judge to remove a teacher. Those judges took longer than the criminal judges. So in a year and a half, I could have him in Sing Sing. It would take 4 years for me to get rid of him as a teacher. And I had to pay him as a teacher. I'd have to send the check to Sing Sing, to the miserable pervert in Sing Sing. And she's protecting all this. Now, why do you do that? Because you're a communist and you want to bring down America. You want to bring down our city. You want to create chaos so that we opt for a new kind of system. Some beautiful socialist one world system where Randy Weingarten can tell you how your kid should be educated, what your kid should think, how your kid should never believe in God because that makes them really stupid. What your kid should do, your kid wants to be a pianist, but she says no, this kid should be a sanitation worker. That's what communism is about. Karl Marx spent the last part of his life concentrating on making children the property of the state. And that is a main goal of the Democrat Party today, to make your kid a property of the state. It reflects itself in their close association with the teachers union. It reflects itself in the change of gender. It reflects itself in somebody like Tampon Tim, who ran for vice president, where you can go to Minnesota. If you're 13 years old, you can have your gender changed. And if your parent tries to find out, they'll put your parent in jail. That's America. Now, this is a guy who went to China 30 times. But you never found that out during his vice presidential campaign. How can that be? How can a guy have gone to China 30 times, gotten paid for it, taught there, and brought 50 kids a year there, and somebody didn't come to the conclusion, particularly since he didn't answer any questions about it, that he was a Chinese communist operative, particularly when he praised socialism. And we were running that big jackass for vice president. Well, thank God we got Donald Trump, who opens this all up one at a time. There's so much to cover every night so that you know what's going on. Sometimes I feel inadequate, Ted, that we don't get all of it out, you know?
Right, there's just so much, Mayor. But hey, we make sure we're covering it wall to wall every night.
What we call the fastest hour on the internet now, turning into much more than an hour because of all the news. And we haven't even really gotten into the mayor's race yet. I mean, I think we dabbled a little bit.
Let's put that. Let's show him that picture of the Emmy Award winner and possibly the single biggest modern killer of old people, Andrew Cuomo. Now, Murphy in New Jersey and Whitlis in your state and Newcomb Scum in California would beg to differ. They think they've killed more old people than Andrew. But Andrew was stuffing them. There's Andrew. And if my predecessor, Ed Koch, was around, he would tell you that Andrew, I don't know if this is true, and I'm just telling you what Ed Koch would say. It's in his book. This guy was warped from the time he was 16 years old. But in any event, absolutely nobody tells you the motive for it. It's simple. So the people were dying of COVID and they were dying in the hospitals, and the government would give you more money for somebody who died of COVID. His biggest campaign contributors is the crooked nursing home industry in New York. And you could put that adjective crooked in front of almost anything that has to do with New York, about 90%. But the nursing home industry is particularly.
Right.
And they're owned by the Democrats, and they own the Democrats. So one of them must have called him or one of his political operatives and said, "What the hell is Andy doing?
Right. Giving
all that money to the damn hospitals? They don't do shit for him. We want those bodies."
That's right.
We were calling it the geriatric genocide for a while.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah.
It was an absolutely cruel, vicious thing to do. And I'm telling you, it was absolutely deliberate. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't a mistake. A lot of people think, well, maybe he just made a mistake. It was done for campaign contributions. It was done to quiet down a complaining campaign contributor. That's why it was done. I'll give you a difference between him and Donald Trump. Sometime between 2017 and 2020, one of Donald Trump's biggest campaign contributors came to him and said, "Would you stop having this obsession with China? And he looked at him and said, "What do you care?" "Well, I do a lot of business there, and it really." And he said, "Well, that doesn't mean anything to me. You do a lot of business there. Big deal. They're an enemy of the United States, and until they stop being an enemy of the United States, we're going to kick the shit out of them." The guy never gave him another penny, and he never talked to him again. That's the difference, and nobody tells you that about him. That guy, I mean, he looks like an evil guy. Come on. Now, we haven't even gotten into the fact that his campaign is going to be, "I'm going to reform New York City.
Well,
Because I'm going to fix all the things that I did to it that have made it unlivable." Because he's responsible for most of the things that are wrong in New York City. Not even Hochul Pochul or Poor Little Adams. He did the bail reforms that let out people who are murdering, raping, killing all over New York that wouldn't be there, wouldn't be out if I were the mayor or Bloomberg were the mayor. He reduced the age. We used to be able to take a 17 or a 16 or a 15-year-old that killed their parents and try them as an adult. Now we can't. The kid goes into juvenile court, he's out in 10 years, and the fact that he committed murder is off his record. Oh, that's so he could have a good 30, 40 more years of killing, because that's what Democrats want. And the best one of all, he changed the parole rules, and as a result of this piece of crap, there are 42 cop killers let out since he passed that law, who are walking the streets of the city of New York looking for more cops to kill, or training Black Lives Matter in how to kill cops, because that's where they get jobs. These are people who got life in lieu of the death penalty, with people saying life is worse. It's not worse when you got a bunch of traitors like this around who'll let them out. And don't you think when it always amazed me that people would say that the death penalty is easier than life in prison. Then why the hell would they spend millions and millions of dollars and fight for 20 years to avoid it? And a few people, yes. There was a guy recently who said, "I don't want to be in jail, kill me. I'll take the death penalty." And he even got to choose the way he wanted to be killed, by gun. He wanted a firing squad. He looked at the 3 ways you could be killed, I think in Oklahoma. Electric chair.
hope these guys got good aim.
An electric chair.
We're putting a lot of trust in these.
Like a
Lethal injection.
An injection.
Which went wrong.
And getting shot. And each one of the other 2, there had been things that had gone wrong.
Yeah.
But you get shot by 3 people. They put a thing over you. They put a big target on your heart.
Is that what they do?
That's firing squad, though. There's just been too many problems with those other methods. I think that's what I'd do.
Well, no, he took it as being having the least. In other words, having it happen the fastest.
I don't know that I could. I don't know that I could volunteer.
You never got a chance to
be shot.
Oh yeah,
it's a tough call.
No, I mean, a couple of the reporters who were stupid enough to try to interview him after.
Well, I'm sure the government will waste some money studying that.
Well,
Costa was there. He was trying to interview him after. He didn't realize,
who volunteers
shot to death. They can't answer.
I wonder who volunteers for that role. I guess they take volunteers from the prison system.
I have a hard time with those people.
I volunteered for it.
Yeah, I think I would.
I volunteered to execute someone?
Bin Laden.
Oh, of course you did.
I did it. I did it without even thinking about it. It was not. It was not thought about. It was not pre-planned. The first time I saw President Bush, which was 4 days after 9/11. And he came off the helicopter, and Governor Pataki greeted him first. And then I greeted him second, and he put his arm behind my head, and he said, "Rudy, what can I do for you?" I said, when you get bin Laden, you can let me execute him. I think it would be appropriate for the people in my city.
Yeah, I would have preferred that.
After I said it, I actually felt weird. Like, what did I do that for?
Yeah, I'm sure it was obviously a very emotional moment, a very
emotional feeling,
a proud night to be an American, despite even who was in the Oval Office at the time. I do think most of us came together in celebration that night, that we were able to take down.
Yeah,
that coward.
As a result of it, I had very little contact with Obama, but he asked me to take him on a tour of the museum, and I did.
And you did.
Yeah, I was very proud that he did that. I wish it had been done earlier. And, you know, I should have realized at the time, because nobody really registered this, but the only person in his administration that opposed it was Biden.
That guy's, well, as Robert Gates once famously said, he's been on the wrong side of every major foreign policy issue in the last 30 years.
Yeah.
Well, Mayor, if I...
Can I just mention one thing before we go?
Sure. Well, and then I want to bring up some breaking news.
$250 bill.
Oh, that's our friend. Of
Our
course.
friend Joe Wilson is going to propose legislation for the 250th anniversary of the United States. The bill.
Let's show the bill, Mayor. Whoa, look at that. That's a good looking $250 bill if I've ever seen one. Look at that. Zoom in on that. Let's see if we can get the president's face there.
I don't know how the
What a
president
nice,
feels about it.
flattering
I might
picture.
get a call and say, Rudy, what the hell are you doing? I don't want that thing.
Now that's a $250 bill that would be worth more than $250.
Yes, because it probably would have limited circulation just for that year, which is next year.
The idea being, this is we're about to
250th anniversary
of America.
And lucky Biden wasn't reelected, because by next year we wouldn't even be America anymore. They'd probably be calling us something else, something in Chinese.
We'd be speaking Mandarin. If Biden won that race, we'd be speaking Mandarin by 2026.
A lot more money than America.
That's right.
So what was it, Ted? Something brace.
Well, some breaking news.
Good. I put my
a little change of pace here. We are hearing that an American Airlines plane caught fire on the tarmac at Denver International Airport. This happening within the last hour. Passengers, we'll bring up some video here. Passengers were seen running from the plane. No word on injuries at this time.
The plane landed, or was it
the plane? So we're trying to get some information here on what's going on here. This is audio we're getting from presumably from inside the terminal. This is in Denver. This within the last hour. What you're seeing there is an American Airlines plane engulfed. It is on fire. The smoke obviously overtaking the fuselage. We're hearing it may have been an engine failure, and passengers were seen evacuating the plane, even onto the wings. This happening at Denver International Airport. Again, this happening within the last hour. We're receiving numerous reports. Again, no word on injuries. We're hearing, and this is early, but we've heard this from a number of folks, that this is American Airlines flight 4012.
We know what kind of airline it was?
So American Airlines flight 4012.
You always think of Boeing at this point, right?
Yeah, we're going to look at the tail number here.
Well, it's people, yeah.
So we'll go ahead and...
I guess this one we can't attribute to the air traffic controllers.
No, well, you know they will. They definitely will. So
The air
flight
traffic
details.
controllers should have known there was smoke.
So let's see. That's American Airlines flight 4012.
So
if this is in fact
given
correct.
the amount of smoke, we got to check and see if there are casualties. I mean, that's enough smoke that some people could be asphyxiated.
Yeah, that's right. And so here's another better view of passengers coming off the jet wing. Again, probably not how they envisioned departing from their flight this afternoon. That happening in Denver.
What? The jet wing. They couldn't get the emergency exits open.
Well, there is
guess-
emergency
I guess,
exits
yeah,
over the
but I mean,
wing
even-
that should
even
tell
the-
us the type
even-
of flight, the type of plane it is actually.
But
You know,
even the stairs. I mean, the usual stairs should have been able to be open unless the fire was there.
Well, it takes a long time to. I mean, you've deplaned before, right? Like,
Only takes a long time because you're trying to get the large walkway into the door, because the door, is going to let you out right into the walkway. Should not take a long time to open the door. There's still a stairs there, and put the stairs down.
yeah, and a few extra exits. I wouldn't mind that in almost every situation.
Well, the problem, yeah, there are exits, but you do have to go out through the wing and then jump. Not much of a jump.
I'd be jumping out of there very fast.
But I can't imagine why they couldn't open the front door and unless again, maybe that's where the fire was. We don't know enough about this to really comment intelligently on it, so let's not comment at all. Except if they want to tie this into the problems of air traffic controllers, this would be one you could put on something else.
Now, we're also hearing that this engine failure may have happened in the sky. So this plane was actually diverted to Denver. Again, these are initial
This was
reports
not
coming
I
in.
see. Okay, so this is a plane that landed. It may have had a forced landing because there was something wrong. And then before they could make it to the, well, maybe they should have, I mean, we can always second guess real quick if we want. Maybe they should have unloaded the plane on the runway and not tried to bring it in. I mean, if the plane had an engine problem, what the hell are they trying to bring it into the terminal for?
So as of 6:15 local time in Denver, no reports of injuries or obviously deaths at this time.
Could be. It could. I mean, if we're lucky, there are no deaths.
So they're 2 hours behind us, correct?
On the other hand, with that level of smoke, you have a. I mean, there are people who are going to be very affected by it.
So again, no words on injuries. So we'll kind of keep up with that. Stay tuned. We'll post any updates we see throughout the evening into tomorrow morning. What we are hearing is that this happened at Terminal C in Denver. Again, hearing American Airlines Flight 4012 caught fire after an engine failure, and the plane was diverted to Denver. Not hearing any word now on injuries, and emergency crews were apparently on the scene immediately.
So do you think we're going to need a meeting between Trump and Putin to straighten this out?
So I do believe, Mayor. Yeah. So I think in a negotiation like this, it will involve talking with Putin, whether that's a in-person meeting in Washington. I don't know enough about Putin's current domestic standing right at home on how much he can afford to be seen with the President Trump. But I would I would say, and look, Mayor, you're one of the foremost experts on foreign policy. So let me ask you the question, Mayor.
What I've read is that in Russia, Trump is a mixed bag. There are people that like the idea that he's more willing to talk to Putin. They think it might bring about peace. And then there are people that think he was. Remember, I know, in America, they do this. He's a friend, but he was much tougher on Russia than Biden was. Right. I mean, Biden took bribes from Russia. I mean, Biden kept off the sanctions list all the people who gave him big money.
That's why Ukraine wanted Biden as president.
I don't know what the numbers are. They probably don't take polls like 50-50, but it sounds from the intelligence that you get that it's almost like America. There's a whole group that really likes him, and there's a whole group that really hates him.
Right.
And the group that likes him seems to be like different types. Particularly, like a lot of people are against the war
in Russia
with Ukraine.
Yeah.
But the people against the war in Ukraine and are against Russia for doing it like him because he's going to end it.
Right. Right.
It's a strange way in which they would think. And the other thing that I don't imagine they're subjected to he's a puppet of Putin because
they tried that already.
He kicked the hell out of him.
Right. Well, they tried that in the first term.
Yeah.
But I don't. Frankly, they did a lot of damage to the president's first term in office,
I don't
hurt a lot of people.
I don't think it works in Russia. So, yeah, I don't think he's major positive or major negative, but I think he's well known. I mean, there's been years now that there's been comment about him and Russian collusion, and then not Russian collusion, and Russians know that the collusion was really in Ukraine.
Right. I feel the Russian people may have a better idea on how that played out, unfortunately, than some in America who have been fed nothing but lies and propaganda now for, crazy to say, 9 years.
But also, I think a lot of this has to do with how Putin feels about his relationship with China.
Right.
If he's and I also don't know if Putin is broad enough and wise enough to think like a man who's going to die.
Yeah,
because he has to think about how is he positioning his country over the next 20 to 30 years, because now they're sort of they're not controlled by China, but China has a great deal of influence over them because their economy is so weak.
Oh my goodness!
And Russians and the Chinese have distrusted each other from long before there was an America.
Doesn't the Russian armies, they get more, they're very much overrated, aren't they?
Well, you would say that because of the difficulties they had in Ukraine, sure. But
Afghanistan back in the, I mean,
and China hasn't fought a war since.
we don't even know what China's capable of, right? I mean, what's
they are much more afraid of us than we realize.
Yeah. You've always said that.
They're much more afraid of us than we realize. Even when they hear about, oh, we've reduced our spending or our soldiers have lost morale, they don't believe it.
Yeah.
They think it's propaganda that is intended to mislead them. I mean, it's part of the warped nature of a controlled society, right? They think,
man,
it's like the Democrats. The Democrats blame us for the things they do. I don't know if they don't think we do this. They think we're as crooked as they.
Ultimate projection.
Yeah.
Ultimate
so I think
projection.
the communists is the same thing. It says the American military has been reduced by X, and they say, yeah, right. That's what they.
Mayor, look,
it's very complicated.
This is no knock on Marco Rubio, who has so much respect for the mayor, and the mayor is a big fan of Marco's. But can you imagine Mayor Giuliani as
Marco's been doing a very good job.
I know he has. Like I said, this isn't a knock on Marco.
Okay, well, don't say that. Marco's doing a good job, and your experience means something. It's ultimately wisdom that means the most, and he's got a very, very good group of people.
Yeah, this isn't a knock on Marco.
Obviously not, but there are some. He's got enough so that he's very well surrounded.
Well, you can't.
We like Marco.
You can't clean the State Department up overnight, right?
You can't.
Absolutely not. No, Marco's he's doing a great job.
You can't clean it up overnight. I agree with that. So we're going to ask you to please pray for the people of Ukraine and the people of Russia, because they're in a terrible position. The war should be over now, or at least a ceasefire should take place so they can spend 3 months trying to figure out how to divide everything up. But they shouldn't be killing people at this point. This war has gone on long enough. It no longer has a point. Russia is not going to take over all of Ukraine. It has what it has. Ukraine has a little piece of Russia that they can trade for a little piece of what they want back. And they should stop killing each other. They're not going to accomplish anything. If the Ukrainians kill the Russians, they're not going to drive Russia out of the Ukraine. And if the Russians kill the Ukrainians, they're not getting any more of Ukraine. You think Trump would let them get any more of Ukraine? They know they're not getting more of Ukraine. So what are we doing now? We're killing people so that somebody can get 3 more inches. Now, and the more it happens, the more it will convince us that these people are animals and not human beings. That there's nothing human about them. And I mean both. So it seems like the only one who cares about human lives, and not even Americans, is Trump. The only person who seems to think there's any urgency here, because Ukrainians are dying and Russians are dying and North Koreans, is Donald Trump. They're leaders of their country. Little Zelensky put it off for 10 days. I happen to think, and I may be wrong, but I think I'm right. I think Putin was ready 10 days ago. And what he did was he revived hope in Putin that he could get that little piece of Russia back. Because it's the one thing Zelensky has to trade. It was the one smart thing that he did. But by not knowing, what was that song? No one went to hold him and no one went to fold him. Right? Oh, Johnny Cash.
Kenny Rogers, isn't it?
Was it Kenny Rogers?
Yeah.
Oh.
Know when to walk away.
Yeah. The guy didn't know when to fold him. The president tried every analogy he could, including you don't have the cards? Right? Yeah.
We are not playing cards.
Cards. This isn't about cards, it's about how much money. Oh.
I'm trying to run a legitimate stealing operation here.
Yeah, I'm trying to do it I'm doing it the highest interests of the one of the most crooked countries in the world. I mean, don't you know what you're dealing with? I mean, there's got to be a certain amount of vig in this country. You can't do anything. I don't want to go down in history as the only honest president of Ukraine. Is that it? Oh my gosh. How did you come up with that so fast?
Overtook us, and he began to speak. He said, son, I've made a life out of reading people's faces and knowing what the cards were by the way they held their eyes. So if you don't mind my saying,
It's a message for Z. Zelensky, Mr. President.
Somebody should have played this.
Play this to Mr. Zelensky.
I recommend to the Department of State or whatever they call it in Ukraine
Coming up.
that you play this for the shrimp.
Right. Just, you got to get the right part, though. I've obviously played a little bit too long here. But this is the part we'll get. Mr. Zelensky, we got something for you here. Some good old American music.
See, this guy's a lot bigger than you kids, so he can slap you around.
The tough guy. It's the real cowboy right here.
You got
It's a little like J.D. Vance. It'll probably get.
know when to fold up, know when to walk away.
Good old American music right here.
When to run, you never count your money.
Yeah, Zelensky's counting his money? No, he's not counting at the table. That's under the table. He's not doing it in front of us. Or
When
the
the
money.
deal's done.
Yeah. All righty.
Let's hear it more, a little more.
The secret to surviving is knowing what to throw away, knowing what to keep.
This is the
Cause
last
every
thing here.
hand's a winner,
I never saw the
and
video.
every hand's a loser.
Yes, Kenny
The
Rogers.
best that you can hope for is to die in your sleep. And when he finished speaking, he turned back toward the window,
This is one of the great American
brushed out
songs.
his cigarette, faded off to sleep. And somewhere in the darkness, the gambler, he broke even. But in his final words, I found an ace that I could keep. You got to know when to hold up, know when to fold up, know when to walk away, and know when to run. You never count your money.
He definitely
When
doesn't
you're
do this.
sitting at the
He
table,
does not count the money on the
time
table.
enough to count.
He's
When
got
the
that part down.
deal's done, you got to know when to hold up, know when to fold up,
He doesn't even count. He
know
just
when
takes.
to walk away, and know when to run. You never count.
We laugh, but unfortunately it is leading
money.
to unnecessary death
Sitting
and
at the
destruction.
table, there'll be time enough for counting.
But as it was just such an absurd
When
reading,
the
you can't help
deal's
but
done,
laugh.
you got to know when to hold up,
All right.
Well,
know when to fold
now the more
up,
serious part, we'd also like you to pray for the people of Iran,
and know
because they're on the verge of freedom, I believe, if we do the right things. And of course, in America, we just say a prayer of thanksgiving because God has already delivered us. Right? Imagine what it would have been like if Biden or Cackling Camel had been elected. Oh my God. We'd probably be all learning Chinese now. So, whatever problems we have, we're headed in the right direction. God bless America. It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past. and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply